Yo, what's going on, everybody? And today we are doing our mock draft 1.0 following the College Football Playoff National Championship and also following the AFC and NFC Championship games in the NFL. This is going into the Shrine and the Senior Bowl, so depending on how the prospects do that are graded in the first round, or maybe some shoot up draft boards, this could change, but let's get right into it. We're here on PFF, and we are starting off with the Tennessee Titans at pick 101. So the Tennessee Titans have a lot of power in their hands, and they're absolutely in a trade down situation, considering that they have a lot of holes that need to be filled. So trading the first round pick to get an absolute haul is something that might potentially happen. However, we're not doing trades in today's mock draft. Later, we're going to do a bunch of wacky trades in our future mock drafts as we get further down the line towards the draft. We're going to do full 7-round mocks, but today we're going to stick and pick at 101, and I think that based on everything that I've seen, even though they absolutely 100% need quarterback, they will not pass up on a guy like Abdul Carter. He is rising up draft boards as being seen as probably the best prospect in this draft overall, or best athlete. That's including Travis Hunter by a lot of people. So he's a guy who started out a linebacker and he dominated, and then he moved over to the edge and he absolutely dominated. He's absolutely a generational talent in my eyes and disrupts the play no matter what it is. So in my opinion, just because of the value of edge rusher in today's NFL and with him being such a good prospect, I think that the Titans will go Abdul Carter at pick 101. This puts the Browns in an interesting position because you are potentially given a choice at drafting the number one prospect in the draft, in many people's eyes as well, Travis Hunter. He can play both sides of the ball, primarily going to be a corner in the NFL. However, he definitely will, I'm sure, play offensive snaps, probably 10 to 20 snaps a game to start off with to get eased into the offense. He might think he can handle more. Just depends on how people are going to use him as far as coaching goes in the NFL. So, do you go Travis Hunter or do you go quarterback, which is the most valuable position in the NFL currently? You have Deshaun Watson under contract, but he has not been good for a while, and he is no longer good as a quarterback. He will not be an adequate starter for you, and depending on his injury history, might not even play for you at all. So, for that reason, as we get closer to the draft and what I think these teams will do as opposed to what I think they should do, I think that the Browns are going to have a hard time passing up on Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward is absolutely a franchise-changing quarterback in my eyes. He has the ability to place the ball wherever he wants it to. He has prototypical size and the strength necessary to brush sacks off and throw through pressure, and he makes plays that win games. He has an amazing killer instinct, amazing arm talent in my opinion, and he steps up to the challenge, has done so his whole career. He was at the FCS level, he stepped up to the challenge. He was at Washington State, he stepped up to the challenge. He then went to Miami and absolutely stepped up to the challenge on the big scale. So in my opinion, the Browns will have too hard of a time, passing up on Cam Ward. He will be going to the Browns at pick 102. Now, the Giants. They're once again in an interesting position because you have Travis Hunter at your feet right here. But is it necessarily the biggest need for you? I don't think so, especially because Dayball and Shen being on the hot seat, they can't afford to necessarily be in the top 3 once again next year. They can't afford to do that. And what do they not have currently? They don't have a quarterback. You can get DBs, definitely not to the caliber of Travis Hunter. You can get receivers. You already have Malik Neighbors. So I think here, especially because I've seen Dayball go to the Shrine Bowl practices, some pretty mysterious dap-ups with Shador Sanders, some pretty comfortable dap-ups. I think that they will 100% just sell out for Shador Sanders in this case. I think they're going to draft him and pass up on Travis Hunter in the case of them having pick 103. But that being said, a lot of these teams here, the top 2 especially, are trade down candidates just because of what you can get for pick 1 or pick 2. If you trade down to pick 6 to the Raiders, who are also quarterback needy, The Jets, another trade up candidate here. So just keep that in mind as we get closer to the draft, because you could definitely see a trade down from one of those top two teams. The Patriots, pick 4. So the Patriots at pick 4 now are in a position in which this is best case scenario for them. Travis Hunter falling to them. Of course, Ted McMillan is a guy that could be your number 1 receiver, and you need that. However, Travis Hunter's there. I don't think you pass on him any further, just because all of the other prospects are much worse, or just enough worse than Travis Hunter for it to not be worth it to pass up on him. I don't know if that makes sense. But you draft Travis Hunter. You already have a guy like Marcus Jones who's used to playing 3 different positions. He's being used on offense. He's primarily a DB, and he also is used as a return man. So Travis Hunter could follow that same mold, and he's going to be excellent on the boundary to go opposite the side of Christian Gonzalez. I know you have Jonathan Jones, but I think Travis Hunter is definitely an upgrade here, and he's going to be your franchise-changing player, and you can also use him on offense. Maybe you even use him primarily on offense and also play snaps on defense. The possibilities are endless because you have guys like Marcus Jones that you already have the blueprint for, and utilizing him in multiple different ways, you can do the same with Travis Hunter, but there's economies of scale here. You can use it to an absolute largest scale possible. So, pick 5 to the Jaguars. This is an interesting one because they need a lot of different things as well. Luckily, one of them not being quarterback. You could potentially go Ted McMillan here because I've said for the longest time that Trevor Lawrence has never had necessarily that big body, physical wide receiver 1. He's never had that. Christian Kirk, you could say, but at the end of the day, Christian Kirk isn't your number 1 option in your offense as far as a weapon goes. Of course, you have Travis Etienne, who's done so many great things, and Ingram, who's a solid tight end as well. Brendan Strange was coming around in his absence. But you've never really had that true wide receiver 1. So could this be a Ted McMillan pick here? Potentially. But I think in this situation, Mason Graham is such a great upgrade and addition on the defensive interior. And he's just a guy who you don't want to pass up on if you're somebody that needs defensive interior that high up in the draft. He's excellent against the run and can also get to the quarterback. That's something that's extremely valuable if you're looking for your next defensive tackle. How good will his pass rush be in the NFL? Remains to be seen. But for a team like the Jaguars, I think you take the chance on Mason Graham. He could definitely 100% change that defensive line. Now we get to the Raiders at pick 6. The Raiders are a team that also have so many holes, one of them, big one, being quarterback, like a lot of these teams at the top. But I think here, they kind of maybe follow in the same footsteps. So now you have the tutelage of Brady out there in the front office, advising what the operations that go on in that organization. Maybe you can do it right this time. You go Ted McMillan, similar to how you had Devontae Adams as the key marquee player out there in the offense. You have a great defense already. Maybe you go pass rush to go opposite somebody like Max Crosby. But I think in this situation, the value being there for Ted McMillan as your potential wide receiver 1 for the future, whoever you have or whoever you lure to go to the Raiders at quarterback, which Brady definitely will, either take a chance on somebody in this draft or he'll get one of the marquee quarterback people on the market. Whoever you do get there, you're going to want to give him a number 1 weapon to the talent of Ted McMillan. And I think that's a great selection. The Jets. Now this sucks for me because now Graham and McMillan are off the board. Me as a Jets fan wearing the jersey right now. You wanted one of those guys because you need help at your D tackle too. Mason Graham could be an absolute franchise-chasing guy to go alongside Quinon Williams. That would be extremely scary. Then you have Ted McMillan, who we need a guy to replace Devontae Adams, who might not be here next year. Or we need another big-body receiver because our receiver room was hurting last year. Our receiving room was hurting super, super bad. So to get a guy like Ted McMillan to add to that would have been amazing. And maybe you play Devontae in the slot, maybe play Garrett in the slot. That would be a scary trio. But unfortunately, the chips didn't fall that way. Now, we look at a guy like Malakai Starks. He could be amazing. We need some safety help. Ashton Davis is not the best. And also Chuck Clark. A guy like Chuck Clark, he's aging. Hasn't really ever panned out to be, a guaranteed safe option at the strong safety position. Then at the free safety position, we have Tony Adams, who hasn't really tapped into his full potential yet. Will he ever? Who knows? We had to get guys like Jalen Mills due to injuries off the waivers, who played great for us. But is there any long-term safety there that we can fully trust to move our franchise into the future? No. And Malakai Starks is truly, potentially, one of these franchise-changing options here at the top. But in this draft, I'm going to go Will Johnson. DJ Reed is likely to leave. He definitely liked the Aaron Glenn hire. He was vocal about it on Twitter. But I think that he's likely to leave because I think he's just fed up. We're going to have to pay him. He might not get the payday that he wants. He might not get the payday that he wants. And so for that reason, there's a lot of uncertainty there. We should upgrade on the boundary, and Will Johnson is the perfect guy to do that with. A guy like Will Johnson, he's got that prototypical size and skill. He's a ball hawk. He moves just like a wide receiver, just playing defense. He has the intangibles and the skill to absolutely shut down a whole side of the field almost, which is exactly what Sauce Gardner would do on the other side of him. Classic island type of DB you're getting out of Will Johnson, and so that's very scary on the boundary. You have Will Johnson and then Sauce Gardner on the other side. There's not going to be a lot of areas that you can throw. You're going to have to move basically down the middle most of the time. So I like that for us, and I like Will Johnson as a pick here. The Panthers at pick 108. Look, I'm going to make this short and sweet. Protect Bryce Young. You've seen now that he can do some things towards the end of the season, and this offense is definitely viable. You've got Jalen Coker, who's breaking out, and Xavier Legette. He might take a step in the right direction next year. You have Chuba Hubbard, who's great in the run game, and you have Jonathan Brooks, who's going to be a phenomenal prospect to look into and give some snaps to in the future once he recovers from injury fully. Another offseason will do that. Protect Bryce Young because you want to see what this offense can do at full strength. I absolutely 100% believe in that, and you can get further down the board in terms of fulfilling the rest of your needs. So Will Campbell would be the pick for me here. He's a guy that he is likely going to play guard in the NFL, but with those short arms. But, never know. He could stick at tackle, and he's just going to be someone that will go out there and protect the quarterback, and you want that for Bryce Young. Definitely somebody who's more mobile as a quarterback, but he needs protection at the end of the day still. A lot of the problems that arose early on in the season is that the protection wasn't there for him, and so he had to do things that he probably shouldn't have done, as in he tried to make the spectacular happen out of nothing, and he didn't feel comfortable in the pocket, so definitely protect him. Pick 9 to the Saints. They just lost Clint Kubiak. And if I was filming this a few days ago when Kubiak was still there, I probably would have gone somebody like Luther Burden. But considering that, we don't really know what the offense has in store for us. And we don't know what the offense is going to look like, especially with the fact that you don't have any answer quarterback like for the foreseeable future. And, you've already got Olave, Shaheed, those types of guys that were fine. They were good. Olave took a step back, but he was still fine. I don't think Burden is the choice here as far as value goes in the first round at pick 9. Do you trade down? Potentially. But I think you can't go wrong with going edge rusher in this draft currently because there's so much value at edge rusher. And at this spot, I definitely like James Pierce Jr. I think James Pierce Jr. is going to absolutely be a steal in this draft. He's just being compared to Abdul Carter right now. He's definitely, in my eyes, the second best edge rusher behind Abdul Carter. He's uber athletic. He can get to the quarterback well, and he's going to pressure the quarterback. That is the type of player on the edge that you want in the NFL because he's absolutely going to change the entire dynamic of the defense and disrupt plays every single time. So I have the Saints grabbing him, and they're very lucky to do so. Pick 10 to the Bears. Pick 10 to the Bears. Look, similar to the Bryce Young situation, protect Caleb Williams. And I think the second best lineman on this board right now is Kelvin Banks Jr. In my opinion, he is a very, very good prospect. He can hold up on blocks for a long time. He has awesome strength. I think he might struggle against shiftier or more slippery edge rushers in the NFL, but he's got great reach and strength to give him the tools to succeed when it comes to learning the learning curve about that. So protect Caleb Williams. Kelvin Banks Jr. is a great option here. Upgrade your offensive line even further, and make sure Caleb is successful for the long term. Absolutely. The 49ers. So I have the 49ers also going in a similar trend or direction with that. Armand Meo is great here. I like his movement and his footwork. He's got great technique with his hands. All of these things are going to translate well to the NFL, whether he's at tackle or at guard. I think he's right on the borderline as far as arm length goes. So we'll see if he sticks at tackle or if he goes to guard. But he can keep up with the size and the strength in the pros just because his technique is so good. I don't want to necessarily say he's kind of like Olu Fashanu, but Olu Fashanu also came in with great technique as far as footwork and his hands go and movement. So Armand Meo, you can't go wrong. He's going to be very solid for you protecting Brock Purdy, which is going to be your number one kind of priority, I guess, because of course down the line you can kind of re-up on like your aging key players, like for example Travarius Ward at the in the secondary, but the value's not there right now for you to address that need. You can do that further down the line. The Cowboys, I think it makes too much sense at this point. It makes way too much sense. You're gonna go Ashton Jenty, generational running back prospect. He's going to get out, and if you get him out in space, he's amazing. Even if he doesn't have too much space, he's going to bounce off tackles and get shifty around the edge. And also, he's not a bad blocker. Even at his 5'9" height, not a bad blocker. So Ashton Jenty, whatever you can get out of this Cowboys offense with Dak still, with CD, with all those cats, Ashton Jenty is just going to improve that strength even more just because he's going to add the running game dynamic, which you haven't had in the past year or so. Ever since you lost Tony Pollard, you haven't had a guy that's truly the guy to trust out there in the backfield. And I think Ashton Jenty is that guy. The Dolphins. You're likely losing Tyreek Hill, so maybe you go wide receiver here, but I don't think there's a receiver here that is really going to be valuable for you, any more valuable than you might get down the line in the second round. And there's still uncertainty with that situation, so I wouldn't jump the gun just yet. I think if you're the Dolphins, it has to end. Malakai Starks has to stop falling here. You go Malakai Starks. You have Javon Holland, who maybe you might extend. I would extend him if I were them. But if you don't extend him, you're going to need a safety out there learning. Potentially you keep Jordan Poyer for another year, but I don't think so. He didn't have the best season. But even so, if you do choose to keep him, Malakai Starks can learn behind him and learn behind those guys in that secondary. But the secondary needs help in the safety department. And I think Malakai Starks, he's absolutely a good prospect here. Great size for his position, moves well with the receiver. He can line up basically anywhere. So he's going to be incredibly useful for you no matter where, you kind of choose to put him. From deep to slot to box. He can play the run really well as well, which you need some toughness on the Dolphins defense because you've got an aging defense. And in my opinion, he would just be such a great addition. The Colts. This pick makes way too much sense. You just go Tyler Warren here. A nice safety valve for Anthony Richardson, generational prospect coming from that tight end spot. And, you have Mo Alley Cox there, not really the type of guy you want to move forward with into the future. And I think so. If it's Anthony Richardson, if Joe Flacco comes in again, mid-season, it's going to be a safety valve for you no matter what. He's just going to make plays. He is going to make incredible catches. You could line him up in the Wildcat just like they did in college and make him run that dang ball, and we'll just see how that goes. The Falcons. The Falcons here, I think that they go edge rusher just to capitalize on how great the edge rush class is right now. And in this situation, I mean, you have Judon who's aging. He sometimes, can be good still, but I think he's not really going to be the answer out on the outside like that. I think you go Mikel Williams here. Keep him in Georgia. He's a great prospect. He has a great ability to prevent extra yardage, which you need if you're Atlanta. You need toughness. You need more toughness. You need more to stop giving up yards that you don't need to, which Mikel Williams would be great at. He's extremely versatile as well. So I think he's a great option here. The Cardinals. The Cardinals here, I think you protect Kyler Murray, right? Kyler Murray, he's an extremely mobile quarterback. But at the end of the day, you need to protect him. And you should go Josh Simmons here. He came from a great Ohio State offensive line. Ohio State offensive linemen, big, beefy. They have great skills. And I think he would be a great option to do so and protect Kyler in Arizona. The Bengals. Bengals at pick 17. So here, I think that if you're the Bengals, you need to continue to enhance that offense. Of course, you had like Andres Iosivas who stepped up and guys like that. But at the end of the day, it was mostly Burrow to Chase connection. How do you make that even better? When teams maybe start to key in on Chase, it's still extremely hard to stop him. Still extremely hard to stop a guy like Jamar Chase. So I think you go Luther Burden. Just to add to that receiver core. He has the best rack ability in the draft. He can play the Z or the slot in the NFL. He's just so talented. And he's the perfect option in my opinion right now to go alongside Jamar Chase. Because not only do you have Jamar Chase now, but you got Burden. You got two aces. That would be an extremely dangerous passing game going into the next year. And I think they would 100% be in a position in which they would make the playoffs, and they would fight in the playoffs because that offense would be so dangerous. The Seahawks. I think the Seahawks here need to upgrade on their interior. That 3-4. Leonard Williams is aging. And your guys that are disrupting that line of scrimmage, they are aging. So you need a new big body out there. And I think this is where you go Kenneth Grant, who I like a lot as well. Because not only and he might even sit behind some of these older guys to do some learning, but I think he's got an extremely big body. He's got great instincts and play recognition. And he's not necessarily right off the bat going to be a line of scrimmage disruptor. Because even though he's not bad in the pass rush game, but in the NFL, he looks a lot kind of like a field general at the defensive tackle spot. So if you are Seattle, who already has a secondary that you already trust pretty well, a lot of young guys coming up and coming, they are already showing a lot of flashes of brilliance out there in the secondary, and you upgrade that interior with a guy like Kenneth Grant, and he learns behind Leonard Williams, he learns behind some of those older guys on the interior, he's going to be great for you. If not this year, absolutely next year. And he is definitely even going to make an impact this year. I'm definitely going to guarantee that for sure. The Buccaneers, I think they need a linebacker. They need to upgrade linebacker. Levante David, he's aging. I think you go Jihad Campbell here. Great option out of Alabama. It's just solid. if you are the Broncos at pick 20, you've got Bo Nix already. You've got Courtland Sutton. Lil Jordan Humphrey was great last year, but is he a long-term option at the receiver spot? Marvin Mims, we're still waiting for him to show up basically long-term. So I think if you are the Broncos, you go Emeka Uka. Just a guy who, he's a great route runner. He's strong. He can win contested catches. And, he can also play the slot in the league. A lot of people compare him to Quinon Johnson, but I think he's better. I think he's a better, he's got that route running ability and the ability to win contested catches, but I think he's physical and strong enough and smart enough to do a lot of things that Quinon Johnson can't. But it's not the worst thing in the world if you are Denver, because at the very least, you're adding a reliable pass catcher and route runner and a guy who just makes plays. We saw it in the college football playoff. Emeka Uka is the real deal, and I think Bo Nix would be extremely dangerous with him on a team that can stand to upgrade with more weapons. The Steelers, you need to go receiver here. You picked Mike Williams up from the Jets. He showed up sometimes, but he's his best days are behind him, coming off of a few injuries now, and I think Mike Williams is not the type of wide receiver 2 you want to roll with into next year. You've got George Pickens, who's talented, but he sometimes has a lack of effort. Just get a guy who you can rely on. And to me, even though honestly I think the value's perfect here, Matthew Golden. He's the type of guy, he makes really athletic catches, big play machine when you need it. He's a good route runner. So I think that if the ball placement is there with a veteran like Russell Wilson, it will be, especially in the red zone, he can create separation, even though it's a small margin of error for him. He's the type of athlete that can make those catches that are super tight, maybe on the out route in the end zone or back of the end zone. But he's a guy that is going to go perfect, and you don't have to roll out Van Jefferson anymore or rely on Mike Williams, whatever's left of him. So I think Matthew Golden's a great option here, and I think if you're the Steelers, you got to go receiver. The Chargers here, I think it makes too much sense. You got to go Coulson Loveland, even though I know Quinon Johnson is not your long-term wide receiver one. He is not a wide receiver 1. And we need to stop pretending like he is. And you have Ladd McConkey, who's producing great things out of the slot and can even be sometimes your Z. You need a safety valve, a guy who is reliable, who can just make catches. And that's Loveland. He's an incredibly solid tight end. He moves well in his route running. He's a reliable pass catcher. At the end of the day, like I said, reliable pass catching is what you need if you're the Chargers. Stop with this. Justin Herbert is going to lead us to the promised land. You need the weapons around him, and Quinon Johnson hasn't been that. But he still is good. He's good, but he's not your safety valve that you need if you're Justin Herbert. So Coulson Loveland makes too much sense here for me. The Packers, I think you need to upgrade in your secondary, especially your DBs. And I think you go Jahdae Barron here. He's one of my favorite cornerbacks in this draft. He has outstanding coverage grades. He can line up anywhere from slot to out wide to the box. He's also not bad in the run game either, and he's super athletic and quick to the ball. You need that effort, and you've seen some of that last year if you're the Packers, but it's like you are trying to do something and you don't have the personnel for it. So him to add to that, and he's so versatile, you can use him in so many ways, I think he's going to be perfect in Green Bay. The Vikings at pick 24. We're drawing down here. We're drawing down the line here. I think you go Tyleik Williams here to beef up that defensive interior. And Tyleik Williams, he's a guy that's going to be really good for the Vikings just because outside of Ivan Pace Jr. and when he was out, y'all were horrible in the run game. And Tyleik Williams, he has great run defense grades, and sometimes he looks like an absolute bowling ball out there. So if you upgrade and clog up those running lanes, like with a guy like him in that interior, then it takes the load off a guy like Ivan Pace, who was doing so many things in the run game for you, and you were horrible without him. Get another guy who can stop the run for you, and Tylee can definitely do so. The Texans. You know, you have C.J. Stroud. That's amazing. You have some really great receivers who, for some reason, one or two of them keep getting injured down the stretch every single year. I don't think you go receiver here, though. Look, I think things fell apart a lot last year when C.J. Stroud didn't have the time to do what he needs to do. I think your offensive line needs help, or at least can benefit from adding depth to it. So I think you go Josh Conerly Jr. here. Josh Conerly Jr., also a great prospect. I think he has a great stance and explosive initial block out of that stance. So his movement is definitely quite solid. And so I think that's what stuck out to me when I saw him compared to some of these other top O-line prospects. And I think that's great. I think that's great if you're the Texans, because your offensive line is okay right now, but you really need guys to hold up at the end of the day and give CJ Stroud some time. So with those kind of fundamentals like that, I think Conerly's a great option here for you. The Rams, I think you need a linebacker if you're the Rams, and I think you go Jaylen Walker here. I think he's going to fly up some boards. Right now they don't have him as highly rated, but I think he's a great prospect. And you don't know what that offense looks like, so I think upgrading on offense is kind of a no-no currently as it stands right now on January 28th, 2025, because you don't know if Matthew Stafford is going to be back. He said he needs time to think about his future. You're aging in the receiver core, but the value's not there right now as far as pick 126. So just go Jaylen Walker. Get another linebacker out there. He can help you on defense. The Ravens. The Ravens, I think, capitalize on the value in this pass rush here. Mike Green. He is definitely going to be the type of guy, especially if he needs a little bit of time to develop and get into it, that Ravens, you're already an established good team. The upside of Mike Green is going to be a home run pick if you hit on it here. He's the type of guy, he's an absolute athletic monster. He has great pro-style movement off the line to get to the quarterback. Kind of reminds me of a heavier Will McDonald. He's definitely going to need to ramp up to the steeper competition in the NFL. He's coming from a G5 in Marshall. But, we've seen a lot of guys step up to the plate when it comes to that. And I think Mike Green, and I hear now, okay, a lot of people said he was around 250. Okay? 248, 250. I hear coming from, I believe it was Shrine Bowl practices, or I can't remember, Shrine Bowl or Senior Bowl, but I believe he's up to 270 now. So if he can continue with that explosiveness at that weight, I think you're in a great spot if you're the Ravens. And if that's the case, he might shoot up to maybe even the third edge taken off the board. He could already be. But if you're the Ravens, getting him at 27, that's immense value. Immense value. And he adds to that whole tough Ravens defense type of theme. So I think that would be great. And you need defense still in the playoffs. I don't think you address secondary here just because Nate Wiggins has been so great. And, even though secondary was kind of a weak point last year with some of the aging guys out there, I think you can address that further down the line. The value here is at edge rusher. And that being said, the Lions, I think you continue this trend. Go Jack Sawyer. Put him opposite Aiden Hutchinson. I think it's going to be really scary. Jack Sawyer, he's so dominant as an overall rusher. His run defense and his instincts are great. Amazing size, and not bad on the pass rush either. Only thing is he's not the quickest or the fastest. He relies on his strength a lot to disrupt plays. But you can tell just by his frame and his play style, when you watch his film, that he's going to be amazing in the NFL. think like J.J. Watt, one of those Watt brothers, guys like that, who are just such like absolute solid defenders, just absolute beasts in the NFL. He can be one of those, in my opinion. Just very, very solid. And I think that across from Hutch, that's going to be really scary, trying to get to that quarterback. Both of them at the same time. You have to game plan and scheme for both of them. That's going to be really tough if you're the opposing team. Commanders, let's keep the same energy, man. Shamar Stewart, what a great prospect. He's another awesome run stopper. He doesn't necessarily have that much of a nose for the quarterback, but the intangibles are there, and he is an intimidator, and he can disrupt plays. So he's going to intimidate and cause pressure, and if you're the Commanders, that's something you need. Your offense is, there's a lot to be desired on the offense. If you're the Commanders, you need a second weapon outside of Terry McLaurin that you can rely on in the long term. I don't think Luke McCaffrey really showed us much after they drafted him last year, but I don't think the value is there in the first round to go receiver if you're the Commanders. I think later on you'll get some great value out of some slot producers. So I think Shamar Stewart is a great option here, just to add to that defense. And like I said, the value of edge rusher in this league right now, it's sky high. If you're the Bills, this is the perfect spot for you to go with a guy like Benjamin Morrison. Benjamin Morrison, he's a polarizing prospect because he could potentially go high, but a lot of people think he should go low, even though he played in such a tough Notre Dame defense that was absolutely lockup. But he plays with so much grit and effort and toughness and intensity that he just has the willingness to defend. And he'll be even better in the run game for you as well. He's a hard tackler, and he's not a takeaway guy, so that's not what you're going to be getting with him. And if you're the Bills, that's not necessarily what you need. And so he could probably play for you. He could play nickel. He could play DB, or like boundary. Or he could maybe even play strong safety in the league. I could see it, just because he has that intensity to him. And he's such a hard tackler as well. So if you're the Bills, who struggled with being battered due to injuries and having guys that you lost out on when you go down the stretch, Taylor Rapp, for example, is a guy that is such a reckless tackler. He's so prone to injury as well. You can even utilize a guy like Benjamin Morrison if you need to fill that role, depending on, how you choose to utilize him. So I think great option for the Bills. He fits that Bills brand of defense 100%. The Eagles. I think with the Eagles, you're aging out there in the secondary. You still need an additional piece for the long term. I think this is the perfect spot, especially with a team already established, to take a risk on a guy like Siobhan Revel. He's only really had one healthy season, but he's been great. He's had great coverage grades. He has that prototypical size that you want to see, and he's super athletic. And in a new age NFL cornerback, he has the type of athleticism and intangibles that you want. On the boundary, he's going to be an absolute ball hawk, and he's gonna make the receivers uncomfortable. 6'3", 193. So if you're the Eagles and you want to go upside at this kind of point in time because you're already a contender, I think you go Siobhan Revel. Trey Amos could potentially be an option if you want the same thing, but I think Siobhan Revel, the upside is a little bit more in my eyes. Lastly, pick 32, the Kansas City Chiefs. Likely going to win the Super Bowl again. Remains to be seen, pending a couple weeks from now. But, what do the Chiefs need, honestly? Their front seven's great. They're great just as a team. They're about to three-peat, potentially. So, Pacheco, he's had injury issues. Down the stretch here in the playoffs, we've seen that he's kind of been phased out of the offense a little bit. His snap shares are going down and down and down. A little bit of a fall off. Is that going to improve next year? Possibly not, because the Chiefs are weird, because when they find their system guys, they really like their system guys. He has the potential to be in, like, kind of close to an all-pro type of running back. We've seen it before. He's been dominant. All that angry running that he does. If you're the Chiefs, do you go running back again? I think in the case of this, yes, because all your snaps basically in the playoffs have gone to Kareem Hunt, who's been making the big plays for you. But he is the type of guy who is not to be trusted long term. I think you go halfback again here, especially in the case of if injuries happen. And I am not going to go Omarion Hampton, even though I think he's a great prospect. You might go Trevion Henderson, a guy who, when you get him out in space, can do really amazing things, and he's just super speedy. But I think you already have that type of utility guy like that, and Xavier Worthy, where you can run some of those more motion-style plays on offense and get him out in space and just let him take it all the way with the skill that he has. I think a guy who's going to absolutely shoot up these draft boards as well, including alongside Trevion Henderson, is his running back mate, Quinon Judkins. He's a guy that can absolutely take over games when you need him to. And, we saw what he did. We saw what he did in the college football playoff. He's a guy that is so Chiefs. He is so Chiefs. You can kind of see a lot out of him, like kind of with the same energy that you saw out of Pacheco last year. So the Chiefs being a team that likes to frequently re-up on running back, even though they've had guys that they've won with that are relatively young, I think Quinon Judkins here, I could definitely see him in 1 year's time in the playoffs, making big plays for them that win them the game. So I think here, he's definitely going to be a guy that you can go for. If you go Trevion Henderson for them, I'm not going to blame you. If you go Omarion Hampton, I don't blame you. So yeah, that's how the draft shakes out for my mock draft 1.0. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And is there a guy that you would have rather gone for your team? I'm also going to be doing team-specific mock drafts in the future. So full 7-round mock drafts for one specific team. So let me know in the comments what team you want me to do. If it's your favorite team, if you want me to do a full 7-round mock on them, I'll definitely do that. Also, make sure you drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe, and follow me on all socials in the description down below. Peace.